Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back. This is the last lecture on our discussion on human musculoskeletal system. And so far, we have, for the most part, discussed the muscular system, the types of bones, the joint movements, types of joints, and other related things. In this segment, we will discuss terminology related to the muscular system. And we will see the functions of muscles, and then we will see the types of muscles based on different factors. So we will see, for examples, types of muscle based on shape, based on location, based on size, based on direction of muscle fibers, based on movement they generate, and based on number of regions. And basic purpose of this lecture is actually for you to just get an idea from the name of the muscle, where it will be located, what function it will provide, to which bone it will be attached, and similar things. So to get a gross idea of the location, shape, and function of the muscles. References for this lecture are primarily the two books that I have been mentioning, but most of the figures in this lecture and the previous lectures are from Google Images. We have seen the functions of skeletal system already. It shapes to the body, supports to the body, protects the brain and heart and lungs and vital organs. Movement is generated at the interface of two bones. The joint is made there. Certain bones produce red blood cells and they also store certain minerals. So muscular system has also some important functions to perform. It produces movement of the body part. So that is the most important function with respect to our discussion. That actually the degree of freedom for the movement is provided by the joints. Joints are formed at the interface of two bones, and the cushion or shock absorption at the interface is for the most part provided by the cartilage. The bones are tied up together. The degree of freedom is controlled using with the help of ligaments. But the power for the movement is provided by the muscles. So that is the primary function. And they provide the power, so they also help not only in movement but also in maintaining posture. And finally, the muscles also are a source of heat production. The muscle cell produce heat as a byproduct and are an important mechanism for maintaining body temperature. So we will discuss this point in detail when we will discuss uh, human physiology. So an analogy is used to describe human musculoskeletal system. So if you consider a tent, so the poles of the tent, they shape the tent. So skeleton is just like the tent poles. The muscles are the guy ropes. So they provide the strength and power to keep the tent in the shape. So ropes are just like muscles. The soft tissue, your skin, for example, is just like the canvas. The tent is made up of, and tendons are the ends of the guy ropes where they are inserted into the poles. So sort of these ends are similar to the tendon. So you can use this analogy just to get an idea of uh, these points. To get an idea of this point. To get an idea of the human musculoskeletal system. But you know a lot more than what this analogy shows. One important structure that we have not discussed so far, we have discussed bones, ligaments, cartilage, and joints, and we will discuss muscles. But one important structure related to muscles are tendons. So tendon is also a connective tissue that wraps bundles of the muscle fibers. So the muscle condenses at the ends of the muscle to the tendon. So tendons are the ending part of the muscles where muscle attaches to the bone. So tendons work like cables which can bend but hardly stretch. Tendons connect to bones and serve to transfer the pull force of the muscle to the bone. So they transfer the force generated in the muscle through muscle fiber to the bones. So they also have synovium and synovial fluid. Again, we will see this point once we discuss the musculoskeletal disorders. So there is actually a cover around these tendons that is called sheath, and inside that sheath there are two layers, and between the two layers there is synovium, and we will come to that point later. But this is similar to these are the synovium in the synovial joints. So this is a very simple structure, an example of a muscle. So these are the two ends in this case of these muscles, and these are actually the tendons at the proximal end, and similarly you will have at the distal end as well. And this is the body of the muscle, and you can see that this muscle consists of series of fibers that constitute this muscle. But what the point we want to focus at the moment is that these are the point where tendon is actually attaching the muscle to the bone. So here the tendon is attaching to the bone and will transfer the force or power from muscle to the bone. So we can classify muscles on different factors, and one factor is based on shape. So for example, some muscles have a part of their name that tells something about their shape. So deltoid muscle, so delta means triangular, latissimus means wide, teres mean round, rhomboid mean diamond shaped or rhombus shaped. So for example, trapezius muscle in the back is trapezoid in shape, so that is why it is called trapezium or trapezius muscle. So deltoid muscle, its shape is sort of triangular. These are actually the muscles of your shoulder. So they wrap the shoulder joint. So deltoid. So this is a latissimus dorsi muscle. So as we saw, the literal meaning of latissimus is wide. So this muscle has a lot of surface area. It's very wide. So that is at the lateral side of your back of your back. Yes. So that is very wide. So that is why it is called latissimus dorsi. This trapezius muscle is on the superior side of your back. So that is trapezius muscle. Its shape is like a trapezoid. Teres muscles are circular. So teres mean round or circular. So these are your teres minor and major. And we see minor means smaller muscle and major means the larger of a group of muscles. And we have this, in this case, rhomboid muscle. And you can see that this is sort of a rhombus shape, as we saw here in this example. So rhombus or diamond shaped muscle is this one. And this also has two other words, rhomboid minor and major. So minor means smaller of the group of muscles and major means the bigger of the group of muscles. So some muscles can be understood. Their shape can be understood through their name. Muscles can be based on their location as well. So for example, some muscles have been named according to their positions in the body. So for example, intercostals are the muscle that run between the ribs. So another name for the ribs is costals. Similarly, this muscle, tibialis is. So tibialis means it is attached to the tibia. So we will see a lot more examples of names of muscles based on location in the following slide. So tibialis is attached to the tibia. Muscles can be named based on size as well. So muscles that have, for example, word maximus, they are the larger muscles. A larger of the group of muscle. Minimus means they are the smaller of the group of muscles. Similarly, you can see the words longus, long, brevis, short, vastus, huge or wide. So similar words can be used to identify the size of the muscle. So for example, in this example, you can see this muscle has the word longus. So proneus longus and proneus brevis. So this is a group of muscles named as proneus, but that consists of two further muscles. So proneus longus means that is the longer of the two muscles, and brevis means that is the shorter of the two muscles. So again, vastus means wide, huge, and it consists of further three muscles. So vastus lateralis on the lateral side, intermedius on the medial side, central side, sorry, intermedius, so in between, and medialis means on the medial side. So lateral side, in between, and on the medial side towards the center line. So from these words, actually, lateral, medial, and intermediate, you can also get an idea of the position of these three muscles with respect to each other. And this origin actually is actually proximal end of the muscle, as we have seen in the case of bones. And this eye or insertion is actually the distal end. So now origin, the word origin is rarely used. The word proximal is more commonly used instead of insertion, the distal. The word distal is used. But in some books you may find O and I, origin and insertion as well. Another factor to classify bones is based on the direction of muscle fibers. So in this case, the abdominal muscle is shown. So rectus abdominis. So what rectus means, the fibers are straight. So rectus means the fibers in this muscle are straight. So straight means they run in this direction. They are perpendicular in this case. So abdominis, again, the word is showing the position of the muscles. So they are the muscles of the abdomen. This is a rectus femoris muscle. So rectus means again the fibers are straight, mean they run parallel to the midline, your medial plane. And femoris means these are the muscles of femur, as we saw in the types of bone. So that is the thigh bone. So rectus femoris means these are the thigh muscles, and their fibers run parallel to the midline. They are straight. Similarly, the word transversus means they are at right angle to the midline, just at 90 degree to the muscle we saw in the previous slide. So this is, for example, the direction of, sorry, not this one, these one. These are the transversus muscles. So their fibers are just at 90 degree to the rectus muscles. So right angle to the midline. And then we have oblique muscles. So the one that I indicated initially were actually those. So you can see here, rectus abdominis, they are straight, but obliquus externus abdominis muscles. So these muscles are in between. They are not straight, they are not horizontal, but they are at an angle. So these are obliquus externus abdominis. Or again, abdominis word means that they are the muscles of abdomen. Similarly, some muscles can be circular in orientation. So some muscle around your eye. So word orbicularis from the word orbit. So they are circular in orientation. So orbicularis muscles have fibers that run in a circular direction, such as the eyelid muscles. So these are called orbicularis oculus. So from the word orbit, they are circular. So you can see their orientation is circular. So you can get an idea about the direction of fibers, whether it is straight, at an angle, horizontal, or circular. You can also identify their muscles from the name of the muscle, the movement that they generate. So sometimes they are based, their names are based on the movement they generate. So this muscle, extensor digitorum longus. So this muscle actually generates the movement that is extension. So we saw flexion and extension. So extension of digits. This is also important, that it is telling us that this generates extension for the four toes. So other than the greater toe, though it creates extension for the rest of the four toes. And longest means this is the longer of the group of muscles. So this name is telling us three things: the movement this muscle generates, where that movement is generated at the digits, and its size. It says it is a longer of the group of muscles. So there will be at least two extensor digitorum muscles. So this is one of them. Another muscle is levator scapulae. So this is also telling us two things. So levator means it elevates. So we saw two movements, elevation and depression of the shoulder. So this muscle actually elevates the shoulder. It moves the shoulder in upward direction. So levator is showing the movement that this muscle generates, and scapula means again the body part where this movement is generated, and that body part is your scapula, this one, the shoulder blade. So we get the information about the movement generated as well as the body part where that movement will be generated. So let's see a couple of other examples. So for example, this muscle, pronator teres. So it creates pronation. So we saw pronation and supination, two movements of your forearm that actually move the palm up and down. So pronator pronate. So it moves the palm toward the downside. Teres mean this, its cross section is circular, teres. This muscle, flexor carpi radialis, creates flexion. Flexion of what? Flexions at carpals and radius. So it also tells us about the about where that movement will be generated. And similarly, you can see flexor carpi ulnaris. So flexion is generated here as well at carpals and ulna, and this muscle also generates flexion, but at the digits. So in this case, this muscle adductor brevis, so it helps us generate adduction, and this brevis means this is smaller of the muscles. This is also adductor muscle. It also generates adduction, but this is the longer. And this is also generating adduction, but this is the bigger muscles. So all three generate the same movement, adduction, but one is small, other is long, and the third is greater in size. So it may have greater cross section than the other two. And finally, we can classify muscle based on the number of origins. Number of origin means how many heads that muscle has on the proximal side generally. So biceps, you are all aware of biceps. So biceps have two heads. So biceps. So sorry, this is the example of biceps. It has two heads, this muscle. The first one is actually triceps. So it has three heads, 1, 2, and the third on this back side. So that is triceps muscle. So this is triceps longus, triceps medius, and triceps lateral. So these are the three further parts of this muscle, and each has one head, so that is why it is triceps. Biceps have two heads, short head and long head. So bi means two, tri means three, and quadriceps means four. So we have four heads in the thigh muscle. So vastus intermedius and rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, and vastus medialis. So again, you can get an idea that this is on the medial side, on the lateral side, in between. Rectus means the fibers are straight, femoris means this is attached to the femur. So you can get an idea from these names about the position of the muscle, number of heads, and size as well. So vastus, and there was a word longus. So they tell us about the size. So I would reiterate, there are two more words. One is agonist and other is antagonist. Agonist and antagonist. So agonist or prime movers are muscles that initiate the movement, and antagonists are opposing muscles. So they relax when the agonist contract, and they contract to reverse the agonist's action. So they work in pair. So in this case, biceps is agonist and triceps is antagonist. So bicep generate the movement and triceps moves in opposite direction. And brachii, biceps brachii, triceps brachii. So brachium means arm. These are the muscles of the arm. So I would reiterate this point that origin and insertion are the two words that you might find somewhere. So the muscle's origin is attached to the immovable bone, and insertion is attached to the movable bone. But this terminology is not used a lot nowadays. So if you read here, in the modern anatomical terminology, origin is called proximal attachment and the insertion is called distal point of attachment. So this is not new for you. So this origin is actually, you can see the upper end or the proximal end of this muscle, and this insertion is the distal end of the muscle. Proximal and distal, upper end and the lower end. So this is what we saw in the discussion on bones as well. So how we can actually state the function of a muscle? So you have to state four things. First, the name of the muscle, then its action, then the body part it moves, and finally the joint. So for example, biceps brachii flexes forearm at elbow joint. So you can first tell the name of the muscle, its action, the body part it moves, and finally the joint at which that movement takes place. The muscle acts to moving a certain body part at this joint. So bicep brachii flexes forearm at elbow joint in this case. So you can just see, we have discussed most of these muscles. So some tells us about the shape. Some tell us about the shape. Position, brachii means arm. Number of heads, biceps for example. Direction of fibers, again the position of the muscle. Size of the muscle, again the position, brachium means arm. Function of the muscles, and similar things can be observed here as well. So again, the shape, number of heads, positions, action or movement that they generate, and their size, for example. So we saw functions of muscles, naming muscle based on different factors, their shape, their size, their location in the body part, number of heads, and there was one more factor as well. So I hope it is clear. If you have any question, you can ask. Thank you.